On this week's Glanbia Ireland Dairy Focus Vodcast, we'll hear from our Glanbia Ireland Vet, Joris Somers, on the responsible use of Anthelmintic. We'll get the latest update from the Animal Health Ireland video series, and we'll go through some autumn grassland management tips and advice. Next, we'll hear from Glanbia Ireland's vet, Joris Somers, on the responsible use of Anthelmintic.
As we're now well into the second half of the grazing season, dosing animals to control parasites in your herd is going to become a focal point. Now, over the past few years, we've seen an increase in the issue of Antamintic resistance. Now, what is Antamintic resistance? When a wormer is not able to kill off worms that it was originally designed to kill off, that is when Antamintic resistance arises. So the worms have become resistant to that product. Why is Antamintic resistance so important? Well, because of this resistance development, less and less worms are susceptible to these products. So in a few years' time, we might actually not be able to use these products to remove the worms from the animals. So to guarantee that these products will still work in the future, we really have to try and take action and slow down the development of Antamintic resistance. One of the things you can do is change the category of wormer that you use in a year. Now, for milking cows, options are very limited, and you are stuck with a product from the eprinomectin category, which is a clear wormer because it has no milk withhold. But when it comes to drying off, you have the option to choose a different product. Now, when choosing a different product, try and stay away from the combination products that will kill off more than one type of worm. So the wormers that kill off stomach worms, gut worms and lungworm, that's all one category of worms as well. But the combination products will often also target liver fluke. Now, if you don't have liver fluke on your farm, there's no need to be using a combination product. So you might want to go for something like maybe oxfendazole instead of albendazole when it comes to drying off, because it doesn't include liver fluke as one of the parasites that it kills off, and it only focuses on stomach worms, gut worms and lungworm. Another thing you can do is not dose all the animals in your herd. It's called Refugia, where you leave a proportion, maybe 10% of the herd, untreated. This could be the older animals because over the years they've had so much exposure to parasites that they've built up enough immunity that the parasites don't actually affect them anymore. Or when you're looking at your young stock group, it could be the heaviest animals, or even in your dry stock, your beef cattle, the heaviest group of animals. Because clearly the parasites are not affecting their development and their growth. So leave them untreated, and that way you leave a mixture of parasites within those animals rather than only resistant ones that survive after dosing. When you're using the yellow or the white wormers, try not to dose the animals and then move them to what would be a clean paddock. So clean paddocks are land that was cut for silage or reseeded land. If you're using those categories, so the yellow and the white wormers, dose the animals and then leave them on the paddock they were in for another 24 to 48 hours. What they will do is they will actually pick up new parasites from the paddock they're in, but they will pick up a mixture of paddocks, so resistant and susceptible parasites. So when they're moved to the clean paddock, they're not only just bringing with them resistant parasites. When you're dosing the animals, and this especially is for dosing that goes down the throat or pour-ons, make sure you're dosing the animals to the right weight. Ideally, you would weigh all the animals, but practically that's probably not going to happen. So what you do is you select the heaviest animal in the group and dose all the animals in that age group to the weight of the heaviest animal. At least then you know that every animal received at least the right amount and was not underdosed, because underdosing creates Anthelmintic resistance. The timing of your dosing is important as well. Dosing too early in the season is usually a waste of time, effort, money and product, because there are not enough parasites yet to be affecting the health of the animal. This time of year, more likely that they've been exposed a lot, they are carrying a heavier burden of parasites, and they might require a dosing. But go by what you see and the information you can get. So if you have a bulk tank screening record, look at that and read what it says for stomach worms, for example. If you have not dosed your animals this year yet and the reading is high, obviously that needs to be taken care of. But if you've only dosed recently and you still get a high reading, that's normal. Leave it for a little while. In your young stock, you can do fecal egg count tests. That way, you can identify when those animals actually have been exposed to plenty of parasites to the level that it might affect their development, so that now you can go in and treat them. Now, if you want to know if there is Antamintic resistance in your herd, the best thing to do is take a fecal sample and have it checked for fecal egg count. If the level is high enough for the animals to be treated, go ahead and dose them with the product that you plan to use, and then maybe a week or two after dosing, take another fecal sample and test it again. There needs to be at least a 95% reduction in the reading in that test, and it's called the fecal egg count reduction test. If the wormer was not able to eliminate at least 95% of the parasites from that group of animals, then there is Anthelmintic resistance to that wormer, and you might have to choose a different wormer to actually clear out the parasites.
Although spring 2021 might seem some distance away at this point in the year, now is the time where we start to set ourselves up for achieving an early turnout next spring. When we talk about autumn grassland management and why it's so important, the key aim of autumn grassland management is to build up a bank of grass in order to extend out the grazing period and achieve as many days at grass as possible this back end, while also setting the platform up to grow grass over the winter and having a sufficient amount of grass in order to achieve an early turnout next spring. According to Pasture Base Ireland this week, national grass growth rates are still continuing to be quite high, with a national average of 69 kilos of dry matter per hectare per day being achieved across the country. And now, while those grass growth rates are being achieved and are projected to continue, we need to take advantage of these high grass growth rates in order to build grass towards those September targets. A key figure to have in mind at the moment as well is every extra day that we can have cows at grass this back end is worth an additional €1.80 per cow per day. In regards to autumn grassland management figures and targets, they're all very dependent on the stocking rate that's being ran on the milking platform. Now is the time to identify your stocking rate and compare it to some targets that are being shown on screen at the moment. If we take, for example, a stocking rate of 3 livestock units per hectare, we want to start building up those covers and build an average farm cover to achieve a peak average farm cover approximately around the 1st of October at around 1150 kilos of dry matter per hectare. From here we'll start running down that average farm cover. We'll have 60% of the platform grazed by the 1st of November, and we'll have a closing average farm cover of approximately 650 kilos of dry matter per hectare as close to December as possible as weather allows. From here then, we don't want to run down that average farm cover too much because we want to have sufficient grass in order to achieve an early turnout next year and have that opening farm cover at approximately 900 kilos of dry matter per hectare. It's very easy at this point in the year to get caught up in figures and targets and get quite confused. The key message at the moment is that we are building average farm covers up. We want to have a bank of grass to extend out that grazing season and achieve as many days at grass as possible this back end in order to achieve that €1.80 per cow per day for every extra day we're at grass. But we don't want to compromise ourselves. We want to achieve an early turnout where we have sufficient grass in spring 2021. A few key targets to have in mind also at the moment is to extend out that rotation length to 30 days by the 1st of September. From here we want to bring back all areas available for grazing back into the milking platform, and we want to react quickly if average farm cover at any point is below target. We want to make quick decisions in order to change that around and build up that average farm cover. And we also want to hit residuals at the moment. Those residuals of 4 centimetres in order to not carry over dead material over that winter period when we're grazing out those paddocks for the final time. We'll hear the latest update from the Animal Health Ireland video series.
Liner change every 2,000 milkings or every 6 months. CellCheck recommends that you change your liners every 2,000 milkings or every 6 months, whichever comes first. Check them weekly to ensure they are lined up correctly with the cluster shell and not twisted. If you find that 6 months have passed before you get to 2,000 milkings, you need to change your liners anyway due to age. How to do it? Work out how many cows you have and how many milkings, and make a diary note to change the liners every 2,000 milkings. 100 cows being milked twice a day on a 10-unit parlour means that the liners should be changed every 100 days. When putting on new liners, always be sure to align them correctly using the arrow on the shell and the arrow on the liner. Here we see the difference between a new liner on the left and a used liner that is well past its working life on the right. There is a noticeable change of shape on the old liner through damage from wear. Here we see the build-up of calcium on the old liner.
For more information on any of the topics covered in this week's Glanbia Ireland Dairy Focus Vodcast, log on to glanbiaconnect.com or contact your local Glanbia Ireland representative.